Go ahead and tell us how you learned how to drive.
Oh, well, let me see. I was 19, and your grandfather and I got married, and I didn't know how to drive. We were in Louisville, Kentucky, and he taught me in a week how to. I couldn't back up though. I could pull forward and everything, and I knew how to shift and everything. We had an old Packard, and he got shipped out on secret orders.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I found out where he was in West Texas, and I was in Kentucky, Louisville. Well, I packed that old Packard up, and I started driving. And every time I pulled out, every time I parked, I had to be sure I could pull out, because I couldn't back up. I didn't have a driver's license. Scared to death.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember, I got to, he was in Lubbock, Texas. That's where he was. They had shipped him to Lubbock. And I was in a little town about 1 o'clock at night, and I was real tired. So I pulled off the side of the road, and I locked the car doors and went to sleep. I had an alarm clock with me, and I set the alarm clock. And when I woke up, those Packards back then, they had a gear shift on the wheel,
Mm-hmm.
and it was very, very sensitive. Well, of course, I didn't know much of anything, but I started to pull around a curve after I pulled up, and it froze. I couldn't get it to go forward. I couldn't get it to go backward. I couldn't get it to go anything. So I put the car lights on, the dimmers, and I locked it, and I walked back to town. I was about a mile or so out of town. And I finally found a little guy. He was about 4 foot or something. He needed to go to Lubbock for the draft board. So he told me if I would take him, he'd drive me to Lubbock. There wasn't any repair shop, open at the time. So I took him out there. He jerked it into first gear, and I set him up on a couple of blankets and everything so he could, see over the top. And he drove me into Lubbock, Texas. I've been driving ever since. That was how I learned to drive, from Louisville, Kentucky to Lubbock, Texas. Oh, gosh. I was fortunate. I tell you, it was something else. So it was
What were the speed limits back then? Do you remember?
One of what?
What the speed limits were?
They were higher than they are now.
They were?
I think they were, yeah.
I guess you got to go further back for them to be lower than they are now.
Yeah, I really, I don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I drove too fast. I would have been too scared to. But that was quite an experience. And then the time that I went from, we had, back during the war years, we had rations. Your clothes, you had coupons to buy your clothes with, or your food and so forth, for certain things. And Bill, that was your grandfather, he was a glider pilot, and he was where was he at? He was at Pope Field, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And he wanted me to come and see him. So I packed my suitcase, all my new clothes, and everything. And I got on the train someplace before Alabama. I was waiting for a train, and I met this young lady. She was going to meet her husband too, and he was in the Marine Corps. Well, we were standing there talking, and another boy came up that was in the service, and he was in a Marine. So he saw her insignia, you know, and I had glider pilot wings on. And he started talking to us. And he was, I don't remember his name, but he was a real nice young man. Anyway, they called for the train to load up. Well, back then, the soldiers or sailors got on first. And after they filled a car up, they would lock that car. And he took our bags on. He said, I'll carry your bags. And I said, I'll carry your coat then, because that was during the winter. So I took his big army coat. And we knew he was going to Alabama to see his family, Montgomery, Alabama. Well, they put him on first and locked the door, and there was no room for us.
Oh, no.
The train left. He had our suitcases, and we're standing there. I had his coat. Oh, boy. And there wasn't another train until the next morning. And the young lady and I, we went and got a room someplace. And she said, well, I never stay awake. I'm sure I'll go to sleep right away. And I said, well, I'll probably... No, I said I would go to sleep right away. And she said she'd work, stay awake all night. Well, we got there and went to bed. She went to sleep and I stayed awake. Reverse. But anyway, we got up the next morning and I sent a wire to the USO that was in the station there in Montgomery for him to page him and tell him to leave our suitcases there, and I would leave his overcoat there. Thank goodness he did. He got the message, and that's the way we got our suitcases back. That was something else. So, gosh, what they did back then. I remember one time I was going to, this was right at the beginning of the war. I was going from Tyler, Texas to Montgomery, Alabama again, but I was riding a bus. And I did get on the bus, but it was real crowded. At first, the bus driver wasn't going to let me on because everybody was there already, seated and everything. And but I had on a slack suit. They had just come out. And but there was an older man and a young man sitting together, and they said, we'll make room for you, come on. So I sat between them. And when we got to, I think it was Jackson, Mississippi, everybody was so nice. During the war years, you just can't imagine how people were so wonderful to each other. Everybody pulled together. It was just grand. And the bus driver wasn't mad at me any longer. He took me out and bought me breakfast. I stayed at the YWCA in Montgomery. And I had never had grits before in my life. Mother never did cook them. We just didn't have them. And I never will forget those girls could not wait till I ate some grits to see whether or not I liked them. Also, while I was there, something funny happened. I went to a nightclub with some friends, and it was sort of I don't know what kind of a place it was, but they had a shooting range in it.
Where was this at?
In Alabama.
In Alabama?
In Montgomery. And there was some, I guess they were soldiers. I don't remember if they were soldiers or sailors. I think they were soldiers. But when they found out I was from Texas, they started teasing me, that, I said, well, sure, I can shoot. Annie, Oklahoma. So what did they do but put me up at the firing range? I'd never fired a gun in my life. I knocked them one down. Pure need luck. Oh, that was funny, because I thought sure I would really caught out in that story. That was fun, though. I was all very young then. I was working for the telephone company. Yeah, must have been. Gosh, that's been a long time ago. Let me see, that was back in the 40s. See, when the war was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And World War II has been over, what, 60 some odd years, hasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Y'all are not even close to that. And here I am way past it.
I think it ended in 45. I'm not 100% sure.
What, honey?
I think it ended in 45.
Yeah, it did. I remember that.
And that was with...
I remember when war was declared, too. I was walking on the street with a girlfriend. It was on a Sunday afternoon, and we were going to the show. And heard that war had been declared, that Japan had bombed Pearl Harbor. I have a newspaper that I brought back from Hawaii and it's a republication of the exact paper that was published that day.
Yeah.
It's probably back there someday. Y'all will see it with my photographs
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Mike's grandmother actually kept originals of that, the day they shot JFK, and a couple other ones.
Oh, that's good. I have.
She's passed away since, but he has them.
I have a picture book someplace here. We used to have a magazine called Life magazine.
Mm-hmm.
Life's still around, isn't it?
As far as I know.
Life magazine?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Life. Anyway, it's someplace, but it's back. It takes you back. It tells you stories, and it's got pictures of all those years.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for a big span of time.
They still have compilations and things like that they put out for sale. You know, the year in pictures and that type of a thing. And you can get all the archives online, too.
Okay.
All the life
that.
archives.
I know nothing about that.
Yeah. Well, you were talking about the war and whatnot, and when I was younger, and we were studying that period of history when I was in school, I called up my grandmother, of course, to talk to her about it, see what she remembers. And she said one of the most vivid memories she has is when she heard that the war was over, you know, VJ Day.
Yeah.
That she got in her car, and even though all the tires were flat because all the rubber was rationed, she drove all around the neighborhood honking her horn and whooping it up. she said she didn't care though. She had, you know, that they were all bad tires and practically flatter than flat. She said it was over. She was so happy and excited.
Something else.
Because if I remember correctly, I don't know if my mom's baby brother, but I believe my mother and my Aunt Jo, I'm not sure if they were born, I think they were born before the war ended. I think my mom is 63.
Well, honey,
this year.
My dad was born in 44 and ended in 45, and my dad's older than your mom. So.
Oh, okay, well then I'm wrong. The way she talks about it, it's the way she makes it sound. But then again, but you know what though, my mom was, I think my mom was born in 47. My Aunt Jo was, I think that means that my Aunt Jo was born the year it ended then.
Your mother's 63?
So.
Mike is 1 year older than your mother.
Mm-hmm.
He was 64 the other day.
And Dad's 66, so...
He's only a couple of years older than Mike. I didn't realize they were that close in age. 6, 7, 8, yeah. I figured, as well as I remembered, I was thinking he was 9 years older than Pat, but he was 8 years older than
Well, he's 9 years older than Mom, but it's the...
kind of, one of those. It always gets me confused.
Yeah.
It gets like that.
Well, Jay and I are only a couple of months apart.
We're 5 months apart, I think. But Mom's in November and Dad's in April.
That, yeah. So it kind of, I don't know how to explain it, but I know what you mean because.
It's 8 years and somewhat months is what
Yeah.
it is. It's like me and Josh are 9 years and 9 months, so.
But I counted 10 years.
Yeah.
Means, let me see. 10 years between my brother and I, yeah. And there were, I think, 11 years between my mother and her brother. Did y'all bring some cheese with?
She just grabbed these from the in there.
She got them good.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted her to do. I was fixing to go get them if she hadn't. That's pretty good.
What about the story of flying to South America?
Oh boy. We were going from Balmorhea to Bogota. And Bill was flying the plane. It was a little four-seater. And Mike was in the front with Bill, and Pat and I were in the back. Pat was only 2 years old. Mike was about 8, I guess. Or it might have been he was 7 and she is 1. Or I think she was about 2 years old when we went to South America. And I've forgotten why we were flying up there, though. Something I guess he had to do. But when there is, to get into Bogota, there's a mountain. It sits on top of a mountain. And he could not, I didn't know it, but I knew something was wrong because it was cold up that high and he was sweating. And at the last minute, he found a break in the clubs. Go get you a plate, darling.
I'll thin it off unless you want me to.
No, that's just with you, but I got them in there.
Yeah, might as well just clean that off rather than having to wash a plate.
Huh?
I said I'd rather just wipe that down than having to wash a plate.
Well, I've got some paper plates I could get you under.
That's okay.
But I said then I was scared because it did. I said when I left Bogota, I was going out of there on a big plane with a beep, beep, beep on it. And I did too. But that was a scary proposition. But Bogota was something else. We lived in an apartment in a complex, and there was a big wall all the way around it. And on the top of the wall, they had broken glass embedded all the way around, so you couldn't climb over it without cutting yourself up. And on practically every street corner, there was a soldier with a bayonet in his gun. And women did not go out at night. Now, Bill took me to a nightclub, and we heard this beautiful guitar player. It was, I had a maid that came in. She stayed there. I couldn't speak Spanish, and she couldn't speak English. Mike could speak it more than I could and kind of translated for us. But it was for practically nothing. But, you know, just so cheap it wasn't even funny. I remember Mike also got in trouble. There was a knock on the door, really a banging. And I went to the door, I had a slip on and my underclothes. But here was this great big Spanish lady and a teenage girl with her. And it seems that Michael had gotten into a fight with her little boy about Mike's age. The girl had to translate. you know. And she was mad as fire. And I've forgotten now. I just wonder if Mike he'll probably remember what it was about. I've forgotten now what it was about. But I told her, well, that my husband would, you know, if there was any punishment to be made, he'd do it.
What was the name of the company again that he worked for?
Honey, I have forgotten. I don't remember. Mike might, or your mother would. Your mother probably would. I don't remember. It was, what was the name? It's gone from my memory. It's really gone.
I think Josh knows the name of it, but I can never remember the name of it.
Yeah. I don't. There's no way I can remember.
Yeah, I want to do this with Uncle Mike too, especially his roughneck stories.
Yeah, Mike has some good memories too. He has some that, like down in Texas, down from, oh gosh, close to Balmaray. Well, gosh. Now, is that Balmaray, Texas, or Balmaray in Columbia? There was on the sea, on the shore, there was isn't that funny? As old as I am, see, I've forgotten so much now. It's Balmaray, Texas, down below the Alpine Mountains, down below Pecos, Texas. Mike would probably know. Right now, I cannot tell you. But on the other hand, we went to we were on the coast in Bogota, and we had an earthquake while we were there. It wasn't big. It was, but I remember I was in the hotel room and I was looking down for some reason at the floor, and I felt a shaking. And I looked up, and when I did, I looked through the window, and I saw a woman across the street run out on her balcony and fall down on her knees and start praying. And I knew then, the swaying, you know, that it had been a slight, but there was no aftershock. Y'all eat that whole, take the box. If you don't eat it, I want it out of here. If it's here, I'll eat it, and I don't need it.
Funny thing is, we're going to a party after this, and we've been asked to bring a 2-liter soda and something to snack on.
Okay, you can take the bottle of Coke with you too, because I bought that for you.
Did you tell us a story one time of when you guys were in Bogota that you were in some kind of lockdown, that you weren't allowed to leave the apartment building? Something was going on.
I wasn't allowed to leave?
Yeah, something you guys were supposed to stay in. Because when you had a story about that.
I don't remember, babe.
Oh. Well, my memory's not all as cracked up to be either, so.
You might remember. I don't remember.
Oops.
We weren't allowed to leave.
I thought it was some kind of like there was some commotion or some military thing going on or something, some type, not really like a riot or whatever, but just some kind of big mob thing, and for your guys' safety you were asked to stay in the apartment complex or whatever.
I don't remember.
Okay.
Might not have been me, maybe. Maybe Mike or Pat. I don't know. No, I don't. I just want to come.
How about the story of the Model T that Bill rebuilt?
Oh, yeah. He built Model A and then sold it, raffled it off in the squadron. I don't remember who got it. But when he came back from the war, we had a Model T for a while.
Most people don't understand how you run a Model T. Go ahead and explain that. I mean,
well, if I remember correctly, it also had on the steering wheel. Honey? I don't know if I remember or not. That's a shame.
This is how I understand it. You have an accelerator and timing on the steering wheel.
Now remember I don't know about the accelerator. That was the gear shift that I'm thinking about, but I don't know if that was the Packard or the Model T.
Probably the Packard. I know a little bit about Model Ts because I watch stuff online.
Yeah.
And I know the foot pedals are different.
Yeah. We also had an old Cadillac that was 16 cylinders.
Wow.
The only way I had to stand up to stop it because it was so heavy. I could not. When I put on the brakes, I literally came up off my seat. You know?
Wow.
It was, and I couldn't hardly drive it because it was so big and so. But that was something. I've got a picture of that someplace too.
Oh, I need to see that.
It's in there. It should be in one of those albums. There's a picture of it, I'm sure.
That'd be worth a couple $1 million today.
Yeah, still at it. Mm-hmm. I don't know whatever happened to it. Bill probably sold it. Then we had that Packard. That was a big car too, a heavy one. Those cars. Oh, we also had a little English car one time where if you were going to turn right or left, it had a little thing up on the that would fly up, you know.
I know exactly what those are.
You do?
The early bugs had them too.
Oh.
They call them semaphores on the bugs, but I'm not sure what I think there's another name for them as well.
I just happened to remember that.
Mm-hmm. On the bugs, if it was a standard bug, it was right behind the driver's, right behind the doors. And if it was a convertible, it was actually up forward, in front, below the windshield, in between the fender and the windshield on the front.
Yeah.
That popped out.
Yeah.
Trafficators, that's the other name for them.
Oh, is it?
Trafficators or semaphores, one of the two.
Bill also had, when I first met him, he had a little coupe. I don't remember what kind of a car, what model it was, but it had a rumble seat. I know y'all have heard of them.
I've heard of them. I have no idea what they are.
Oh, there.
Where the trunk is, honey,
Mm-hmm.
folds out, and there's a seat there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. It was real neat, especially when you're young.
Mm.
It was almost like a convertible.
Mm-hmm.
Almost.
It's called one of the reasons it's called a rumble seat, because you got a rough ride back there.
Yeah, that's true. I don't remember that part of it, though. I was young. I didn't bother me at all. Let me see. Gosh. I remember one time I was riding the train I don't know where I was going, but I met some of the nicest people. They were wonderful. I might have been going to Indiana to meet Bill. I don't know. I was going, someplace. And there was one lady, she shared her bunk with me. Or, those, that's, what are they called? I can't think of the name
Cabin? Yes, I don't.
But you know what I mean,
yeah.
anyway.
No fold-out bunk.
Yeah. And another one, they were so nice to me. One lady from New York. That's so long ago. So long. I've forgotten about a lot of things. You do over the years. That's why it'd be nice to write things down, When I went to Europe, we had a young girl with us that she was a therapist for senior citizens in California. She was a lovely person. We had another young one that she was a pain in the rear. She thought everybody should cater to her. She was very pretty. And
I work with some of those.
Yeah. But this one that was the therapist, she kept a journal. And I am so sorry that I didn't, because you forget things over time. And she kept, a running journal of everywhere we went, whatever we did on the trip. And I know that later on she must have been very glad she had it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I've got the pictures in there of that trip. That's one thing I'm glad I did.
Mm-hmm.
I spent more money but I had saved it up.
Mm-hmm.
And it cost me about, cheap really. It was about $3,000 then.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see, that was 271, about 16 years ago.
It was in the 90s. I know that.
Was it? It was a wonderful trip. I wouldn't take anything in the world for making that trip.
Well, you brought both me and Josh back T-shirts from Switzerland.
Did it?
You still have yours.
And actually, I have Josh's and mine.
Oh, that's right, you do.
I had a hard time finding things, but I've still got a little book of Rome. Rome was my favorite. I just loved it. And it shows, have you ever seen that book? It shows the Colosseum.
Mm-hmm.
It shows what it looks like now.
Mm-hmm.
And you put this page down and it will show you what it looked like when it was built.
Mm.
And then there's stories in there about each of the things. It's really...